after a fire at a barbecue restaurant in Ashwaubenon. Ashwaubenon fire officials say they were called to Mission BBQ on Oneida Street just before 2:30 yesterday afternoon. They say the fire started on the outside of the building near a smoker. Look at these photos here. A firefighter suffered minor injuries and was treated at the hospital and released. The fire caused major damage to the restaurant's wall, ceiling, and other areas. Officials don't know how long the restaurant will be closed.